like that guy who was shooting people and getting shot up, and it's like his last moment, and he kills himself. Can you imagine how many times he said, I'll change, I'm sorry I did this, I should never have done this is terrible. We have to prepare for transition. We have to meditate. We have to learn to be calm. We have to learn to deal with the moment that's happening in the moment, so that we can transition the influence that's involved in reincarnation. We know now that we don't die. We go from one body to the next. Now, the next stage is, can we incarnate the soul? We incarnate the personality, why can't we incarnate the soul? So that's reincarnation based on an enormous amount of psychological study, but in reality, this is the #1 founder of that psychology. And he doesn't have much time to finish up, but he's teaching other students and other psychologists in relationship to how to gather this information and how to properly do an investigation toward this study. One of the main reasons why in Asia or other areas that he was able to find these children that thought that they were reincarnated is because they come from Buddhist families or Hindu families, and that the subject of reincarnation is not taboo. It's literally something in their previous life they were common to talk about, and as they move to this life, so there's a little bit easier transition of memory and placement, of the energy behind reincarnation. And the only reason why in reincarnation these things come up the way they do, like dying and then having all these processes, or jealousy, or enviousness, or all these different things that are very strong from the previous life, is because they were built in that life, those energies, those principal energies, and as they carried over, they carried with it that energy, so the transfiguration, the transmutation, the change of being able to heal that is really important. And it's not by necessarily going to a psychologist and find out what your previous life was, because that'll drive you nuts. It's not about tackling your previous life and then dealing with it, fears or things like that. Just saying, oh, that was my last life. No real reason to be afraid. It doesn't work like that. It's only by a higher consciousness, an influence of within the hierarchy where reincarnation takes place, and there is a method of meditation that heals those influences that are carried over from one life into the next. And so in Buddhism, our practice is transmission, because the one who's doing the transmission is the #1 tuku, the one who is the reincarnate that has not just full memory, but is in fact a reincarnate and always talks about that. But everybody else is also a reincarnate. So the nature of reincarnation, from my point of view, is second ray. And when people incarnate, their process, in order to facilitate themselves, in order to heal themselves, they have to practice second ray characteristics, second ray ways of being, second ray of meditation, influences, that aren't sixth ray, because it's those sixth ray qualities that carry from one life into the next. They burden, from one life to the next, because they're impurities, and they don't go away. They're attached. So you'll think of the person of the previous life, or you'll think of a place, or you'll think of whatever due to attachment. But that's not a value. Knowing your previous life or having those attachments, any of that is something you want to heal, not something you want to analyze. Because if you try and analyze it, you'll create Maya. You'll create a psychic energy that infuses into people to close them off from ever being able to heal their past lives. Yeah? And it's a strong influence inside of people. So I try, to help people let go of those thought energies, so that we can relax as much as we can, and allow the fourth ray to move through the body that is in relationship to reincarnation. It's nature. It's a process. It helps, like that guy who was, like shooting people and getting shot up, and it's like his last moment, and he kills himself. Can you imagine how many times he said, I'll change, I'm sorry I did this, I should never have done this is terrible. Yeah? There is a process in life that moves people through, pretty bad events. But after they die, they come back and anything could be going on. Your ability to be a baker now and not have those interests, not move in that direction, at all, but have a recall of a death memory that just is so strikingly weird, like a nightmare. And if that influence isn't released, then, like in his case, he goes to baking. Well, that's definitely an alternative to maybe something else that was going on younger in his life that could have moved him in a more negative direction. But every single step that a person moves through in their process clears the recapitulation of a previous life in karma. But if we meditate, if we work toward meditation, we actually develop telepathy and intuition, which isn't about remembering our previous lives. We know we have previous lives. The main thing is about the influence of being able to discern and discriminate, the energy inside of us. Can it be at a higher rate? We don't know what a higher rate really is because we're still, the church says reincarnation doesn't exist, all these things don't exist, science is barely able to begin research on it, and its validity is starting to show, all that stuff, showing of little Buddha and, all of that is coming into the world. So that influence in itself is fourth ray. So when humanity begins a process of actually being clearly, given understanding that reincarnation does exist, and it doesn't happen just to special people, but it happens to everybody, and that if you study this, you'll see that it's in your younger years that these processes of your past life really constrict you a lot. You can't, you have flashbacks, you have memories, you have fears, you have all kinds of weird shit that comes up, and it's from a previous terrible scenario. But as time goes on, as you get to be 7 or 8 or 9 or 10, this life becomes more dominant, and you lose that dominant process of last life. But that process of having that process, that negative fear, that phobia, all these different things that came in the birth all the way up to these ages, inhibit and affect the development of the personality that grows up later. Does that make sense? So in my work, the key is not just to explain that Buddhism exists, but explain we have to make transition. We have to prepare for transition. We have to meditate. We have to learn to be calm. We have to learn to deal with the moment that's happening in the moment, so that we can transition the influence that's involved in reincarnation. We know now that we don't die. We go from one body to the next. Now, the next stage is, can we incarnate the soul? We incarnate the personality. Why can't we incarnate the soul? Does that make sense? It's a metaphysical phenomenon. All we have to do is go to the next step. Realize we do reincarnate. All right, we're safe. Does that make sense? But now we have to practice, the emptiness part, so that we can actually bring the soul quality in. That gives us an enormous ability, yeah, to be calm and to be understanding, to be, representing, yeah, the influence of higher mind, higher consciousness, yeah, relating to people in ways that liberate people, that are sharing and caring and understanding, all second rate. Yeah, that's the soul. It's not like you should be this, it just is what it is. Yeah? So in meditation, you literally incarnate the soul. So that's why in my work I call it soul therapy. Does that make sense? I'm not asking you to incarnate your soul. I'm giving you soul therapy, which incarnates your soul. And it takes care of your process of past lives. Put a child in one of my systems. Give them an etheric weaver treatment. You are treating them for past lives and treating them for present circumstances and present situations, the whole kit and caboodle, wholesome, yeah? Everything that has to do with both your past life and this present situation is the etheric field. Yeah? So the etheric weaver and all the tools are to help you heal those past lives. And that's why people feel better. That's why people change and get more involved and get more spiritual, because not only are they healing their past lives, they're now incarnating their soul. Does that make sense? Cool.